Hey everybody, welcome back to Truck Talk and Time with Jesus. Well, it's officially car talk. I'm on my way back to work. Interesting couple days. Well, the rest of the day Wednesday and yesterday off. I was able to get the brakes done. You know, I'm sure we have all been through this. I ordered some parts online. Filled out all the little dots. You picked your vehicle and you went through the whole thing and put four-wheel drive. You put all these bells and whistles, little dots on there. It's like Morse code by the time you're done. And not thinking, I looked in the box, seen the rotors in boxes, and seen the brake pads. Well, it's 4-disc truck, so there's 4 rotors. And obviously, there should be 2 boxes, front brake pads and back brake pads. Because they did away with the good old drums, if anybody remembers those things. There's still cars out there that has them. But, so I'm jacking this big old truck up and I'm pulling the tire off, which weighs like a zillion tons, and I'm not even kidding you. The driver's side rear, I really didn't have much problems getting that back on. The passenger tire, for some reason, I don't know. I don't know if I was just tired or I'm just getting weak in my days. I don't know what it is, but for crying out loud, that thing felt like I was in a Tuck Man competition trying to lift one of them big cement balls and throw it up on a pillar. But moral of the story is, you can't always go what you think is going to happen, because that's thinking under our own understanding and not Jesus. Because, let's face it, people. I went and I put the thing up on jack, got it all situated and was ready to start doing what I needed to do. So I run inside, running onto the breezeway, grab the box, and I'm looking in there, and I'm looking at the rotors going, why are these rotors so freaking small? Now, it really they're good for a bit. I really didn't have to change them, but I figured, why not? Since I'm jacking it up, why not just change all the rotors up? Because they're getting up there, so it's like, let's just change them. Save yourself a little bit of headache later. So, I don't know if anybody's ever worked on cars or anything, but there's a bracket that holds the rotor in place. The caliper mounts to that bracket. The brake caliper pushes your brake pads like this, basically, and it comes in and releases as soon as you release the brake pad. That then this little cylinder in there moves and it presses the brake pads against the rotor. So you got to take all this stuff apart, compress the cylinder back in, which sometimes can be a headache. I even have a tool that's supposed to be easy to compress it in, but let me tell you something right now. I've not yet figured out how this stupid tool works. I had one before, but it was not that complicated. This thing is like, never mind. But anyways, so then you gotta go get on the phone, try to figure out who to talk to. I end up talking to one place through the company, and I had the wrong department. They then transferred me to another department. So I finally got a return email sent to me, and I was able to take it back to any AutoZone that was near me. Well, good thing about where I live, there's an AutoZone like diagonal from where I live, like right across the street. You got the school, you got the school bus parking, you got a little house, and then you got AutoZone. So I was happy about that. So I was able to get brake pads, went back, got it finished. But I started off the morning on the phone with Capital One trying to resolve an issue. What a nightmare. Capital One, I can see why there are so many lawsuits against Capital One. I mean, I've never in my life had a credit card that has been hacked so many times. They have given me now, I think this is probably the fourth card, and I know what you're probably thinking. Why don't you just do away with it? Well, because of the fact of credit. You have to show so much credit for long periods of time to have good credit. And so if you do away with a card, not saying that I'm going to need credit anytime soon, but you don't know. If I decide to sell that house, we decide to move, whatever, you need good credit to be able to purchase something. Long periods. And those credit cards helped out. Plus the fact I got the streaming devices and stuff that it gets automatically taken off when I put it on the Capital One card, because Capital One at least they back up any fraudulent charges that you don't do. And then you can prove that you didn't do it. They'll look into it. Most likely 99% of the time I've never had them not refund me on something. Because when you start looking up places, and one time I actually got on there and viewed the order, and I looked up the company and the address. It was in the middle of nowhere. I mean, it looked like a swamp. I'm like, well, how in the world? But there was a couple houses by there. So did they make up an address? Or was there actually a house there one time and it just fell in and they dug a hole? I don't know. But either way, people, you can't be deceived. These people that are out here scamming is a professional. They do this professionally. It's like going to work for them. But I got a feeling it's more of a high than anything else, because they just want to see how many people they can scam out of money. But we are so stupid. And I hate to say it, but we are. Because we leave our bank information, we leave our addresses, we leave our date of birth, all this garbage on social media and the internet. Many of you pay by online these days. You may say, well, I'm on a secure site. So they tell you. If I told you, hey, walking with Satan today, you're going to have a secure line. I'm not lying to you. You're going to have a secure line. But let me tell you, it's not going to be where you want to go. You just got to think about stuff, people. I don't save no information on that line. The only thing that's on there is, like I said, the streaming devices and stuff like that, and I do it on a card. Now, I'm not saying my bank's not able to do it, but the bank seems to take a little bit longer to do it. I will say Capital One goes quickly to work on it. So, but the only thing is now they want you to scan them or fax to you, do this, do that, your driver's license, and all this garbage. And I'm like, listen, people. I gave them my address, my social security, my full social security number, because most scamming things these days, they're only going to get the last 4 digits of your social security number, because you don't have to enter your whole social security number. Because if you have to enter your whole social security number to a company that you have dealt with for years, there's something wrong. If they're sending you a notice or something about, how about all these ones? You have one. You click on it, you open it up. Now, let me say something to you. If you haven't shopped somewhere in a long time, let's just say Kohl's. You shop at Kohl's, you haven't shopped there in a while, and then all of a sudden you get a thing. You have won a Kohl's gift card. Click here. You click on it, you already might have put a spam or a virus or whatever you want onto your phone. It could be a tracking. It could go through your phone and pull every kind of information off it. Just saying. If it looks too good to be true, most likely it is, because that's what Satan does. He makes things look too good to be true, but we fall for it over and over and over. You know, I said on the videos, I said, don't panic, people, you know, but prepare. There's nothing wrong with preparing. I thought about going out and getting some stuff, and then I started thinking, you know, all the stuff that I wanted to get done yesterday, and really, I got a start of one thing done, the brakes on the back. Still wasn't happy because I really wanted to change the front rotors out in the one caliper because it was sticking a little bit. But either way, accomplished, at least got that accomplished, and I got some of the garage reorganized because I ended up taking a tumble yesterday because there was stuff flying everywhere. I'm telling you, put your stuff away when you're done. So, I was reading about the ports and all this to see what was going on with it, and I'm thinking, you know, but the interesting topic that was on there before was what a great time to go into a strike right before an election. And I'm thinking in my head going, you know, why don't you just call it what it is? You guys are trying to make havoc and panic, so we're not focused on the election. Exactly what this is. You can call it a horse, you can call it a donkey. But if it's a donkey, call it a dang donkey, because that's what it is. Basically, if you're smelling something and you look down and you see it's cow dung, that's exactly what it is. Don't step in it, otherwise you're going to take the smell with you. It's just ridiculous. Because their complaints, now listen to this, because I was reading some of their complaints. They say they work very hard. Most of them are crane operators. It's not like you're lifting containers by hand here, people. It's a crane operator that lifts these things. And I'm not for sure what all these other dock workers do. I'm not saying it's not strenuous. I don't really know much about their job. I've been on the rail yards before, and I can tell you this much. It is a pain to go in and out of those things. It sucks. There's nothing good. You got to have a code to get in, a code to get out. It's horrible. It's like going across into Canada, but trying to come back. You need your mother's social security number, your mother's date of birth, where she, all the places she lived. You need everything about her and then some. But yet I hold a United States driver's license. Does that make any sense to anybody? I don't even know why Canada has to have all the nonsense that they got to have to come to the United States. It's like saying New Mexico needs, but Old Mexico don't need green cards or whatever the heck they deal with. I'm not really for sure what Canada has to have, but I'm sure if we got to have some kind of stupid card, then our card or a passport or something. I'm not even really for sure. Somebody told me it's really you need a passport, but there's a card you can buy. And I think Darlene looked it up once before too, because we were going to go to Niagara Falls, but we wanted to go to the Canada side. And then once we realized how much stuff's involved in it, I'm like, just to go to Canada? It's not going to Canada, it's coming back out of Canada. Well, here's my social security card. Here's my birth certificate. It says I was born in Ohio. Here's my driver's license. I passed for my hazmat, which they got to run it through the federal base to make sure you're not a terrorist and all this nonsense since 9/11. I passed that. So, why do I need all this other documents? Why does anybody need it? It kills me. It really does, people. It just makes me go, why? So let me ask you something. I'm just curious. I always like other people's thoughts because sometimes I think it's my brain just in overtime. But then when I read comments of what you guys are saying, I'm like, well, I'm glad I'm not the only one. But let me ask you something. Can somebody please explain to me the difference of all these illegal immigrants that came through and the stuff that they were doing? Most of them were cartel. Raping people, destroying properties, breaking into stuff, bringing drugs. Where's their paperwork? Now, if I was a citizen of Canada or Mexico or any other country, I'd be like, listen here, fool. I'm coming over. How are you going to stop me? I mean, now you're really going into the Constitution, in my opinion, and it doesn't matter. The Constitution, you might as well just roll that thing up and light it on fire. Because the Constitution is useless. Because you got people in there that are useless. They should not be in there. We voted for these people, supposedly. Well, let's not get on the fake election crap. My thing is, if they did it once, how are they not going to do it again? How in the world did this not get overturned? They have all the proof. People have exposed the truth, but yet went missing. You got a debate where the vice president wore around her earpiece, her earring, you can see the microphone there. It's ridiculous. I just watched an interview a couple days ago, but I watched it yesterday of her doing an interview, and she's right back to that merry-go-round of words that doesn't make any sense. Anybody see a pattern between her and Biden? It was the same babbling stuff. This is the people that's running our country. These are the people that you go to sleep at nighttime wondering. I know I don't wonder about the stuff. I just pray and lift it to God and say, here you go, it's yours. In your son's name, amen. Take it. I would rather be in heaven than be in this mess. This is totally... It just doesn't end. I mean, every day there is some kind of stupid out there. Whether it's this woke crap, this gay rights stuff, all lives don't matter, but this lives matter. I mean, you even mentioned... Darlene mentioned something. I don't know what it is. We got some kind of month of some kind of naturality or something. Okay, well, I'm glad. I'm so glad. But... I remember I worked at Target, and I heard a bunch of African Americans, American Africans, black, whatever the heck you want to be called. I don't care. You can call me cracker. I'm fine with you calling me cracker. I'm fine with you calling me a white piece of garbage because I've been hurt it and seen it and went through it. No, this isn't about racism, but I'm just saying, how is it not? As soon as you bring up something, their exact words is, oh, you're one of those kind. I ain't one of no kind. But when I'm being told that I got to give my break up, as long as it's not my lunch break, because you got to do that within 6 hours, and you better get it done, otherwise you're in big trouble. Because they don't want no lawsuit against them. Do labor. They're one of your 15-minute breaks. I was told I had to give it up if somebody wanted an extra break, and I'm like, I flat out said, no, I will not. Why do I have to give up another break? I shouldn't have to. Most of the time, I don't even get a chance to use it. But think about it. Just as soon as you bring it up a topic, you're the bad person, and they're the victim. Because you didn't live it. Well, let me tell you right now, anybody that's alive today didn't live slavery. But you need to do your homework on slavery because it's starting to come back, people. It's starting to come back, whether you see it or not. When it happens, you're going to be like, oh my gosh, he was right. They tried it with this Black Lives Matter. But as soon as you put all lives matter, look what happens. There was a guy that had all lives matter on, and he got beaten. I looked at the pictures of this guy, and I'm like, oh my gosh, that ain't beaten. That's almost death. They almost beat this guy till he died. He had concussions, broken ribs, broken hands. I mean, I can go down the list of stuff that this guy suffered. All because he had all lives matter. And on the back of the shirt was amazing. Stained with his blood, where they slammed him down and he cracked the back of his head, and I guess he was bleeding. But it was weird because the way his blood came down the back of his shirt, it says this on the back. All lives matter, and on the back it said, to Jesus. We are one. And the blood formed over top of the back of his shirt. See, Jesus paid that blood for all of us. Not none. Not certain ones, but all of us. We all matter. And if we can't unite together to get through, there was slavery way before the time. But it started off way before African Americans. If you don't think there's white people slaves, you're sadly mistaken. If you don't think we're in slavery right now, maybe we need to put the mask back on. Because every little thing that goes wrong is a racial thing. You're falling right into their traps. But yet you got guys like Morgan Freeman, God bless him, for standing there and just putting it out there. You got Denzel Washington now coming out. It's pretty much saying what Morgan Freeman. Martin Luther King Jr. So many people scream out his name, but then when you ask them what he stood for or what kind of a man he was, they don't know. See, here's the thing. We're not teaching the generations that are coming up. We're not teaching them our culture, our history. We're teaching them just the hatred of it. It's never going to end. You're never going to end racism if you don't stop thinking you're owed something. What are you owed? I'm not owed anything. I'm not even owed the blood of Christ, but I'm grateful that he shed it for me. It's hard. It makes it really hard to leave a door open for somebody, and then all of a sudden they walk by and just turn their head. It was two old ladies. I held the door open for them, and the one black lady turns around, looks at me. Sorry, American African lady turned around, looked at me. She goes, "You better hold the door open for me." Excuse me? You heard me? You better hold the door open for me. I said, ma'am, let me tell you something right now. I wasn't born to respect people, okay? I wasn't born with manners. But I'll tell you right now, what I was born with is pure evil, pure hate. I'm doing this out of the kindness of Jesus Christ. And you're going to sit there and push buttons like that, you ungrateful lady. Because you want to live in a past that you didn't even live in. Or all of our ancestors went through something. Part of my ancestors, Native Americans, was robbed, killed for this land. You know, the land of the home of the free and the brave. Unbelievable. Everybody has a problem. Everybody. The light's starting to bother my eyes. It's like reflecting off the mirror and back down here. So, what do you think they're doing to us? Barack Obama's been trying to separate race for a long time. They're trying to do it again right now. They're trying to get us into a race war. You understand abortions, them making abortions legal. First of all, it's murder. I don't care what you say about it. I don't care how you look at it. I don't care what you do with it. It's my body and I can do what I want. Okay, well, why don't you try being responsible? Why don't you try doing the right things instead of the wrong things? Why don't you try being responsible instead of doing what you feel is right? Because the world is saying and telling you all these things are right. It's not right. None of it. None of it makes sense because you're going against what God has done for us. So if we're going against what God has done for us, sent Jesus to the cross, how do you think God feels about all of it? Really, think about it. How do you truly think God feels about it? So I just had a guy just about rear-end me because he wants to do 90 miles an hour. See, people, this is exactly what I'm talking about. We are in a war that we don't even know exists yet. It's people, there's so much hatred out here. And because I speak of the things I speak about, people call me a racist. That's fine, you can call me a racist. But you better call me a racist against, I don't care what color skin you are. It's nothing to do with the American Africans. It's nothing to do with them. I know a lot of them, and I enjoy talking to them. It has nothing to do with it. It has to do with this nasty government. The things that they're trying to make us become. I watched a video a while back on YouTube. A guy walks up, rings the doorbell. This guy comes out, and he's protesting all this stuff, and he goes, I think it's all right for all these people to come over here. You don't see the problem, the guy said? He goes, no. There's thousands of them coming over. There's nowhere for them to go. They are homeless basically now on the streets because they're going to ship them back as soon as this election's over. You better believe it. Watch how fast these people disappear. And he's going on and on and on until the guy had 3 Mexican guys with backpacks and stuff come walking up the sidewalk, and he goes, what's going on? Well, since you said you don't care, here you go. They can stay with you. Here's a bag with some of their medications in it and all this stuff. The guy goes, no. They can't stay here. He said, well, you just said they have the rights. You see how fast it changes when you drop them on their doorsteps? Look at Pelosi. Same thing. You got all that property. Well, let's buy some tents. Let's line them up in their yard, and let's have at it. That'll put an end to a lot of it. Take them right up there in Washington, D.C., right in front of that big, useless White House. There's a sidewalk goes all the way around it. Let's start putting tents up there. Let's put some of these organizations, that Red Cross, Salvation Army, let's start putting some of them vehicles out there so they can give them coffee and donuts and drinks and water and blankets. You want to put an end to it? That's how we put an end to this stuff. We voted these nonsense people in there. They're not threatened by us. We're scared of them. We have the power. They don't. They take the power because they do what they do. They put us on lockdown. They shut down all these places during the big COVID. They shut us down. And look how many businesses lost their companies. Restaurants went out of business. All these small little mom and pop things went out of business. But the big bag chains were allowed to stay open. But you had guidelines, you had dots you had to follow. You had to follow the yellow brick road. Well, we all know if you follow the yellow brick road, you get to go home eventually. And nastiness. I remember the one time we were at Walmart, and this lady got so nasty with my wife. Will you scoot back? She was there first. And I'm just sitting there thinking in my head going, you got to be kidding me right now. Hatred, people. Nothing but hatred. You're allowed to walk outside, but you got to have a mask on. You're allowed to walk in groups of whatever, but you got to be 6 feet apart. You can't go over to your families, but you can go look in the window. People were spending Thanksgiving and stuff looking through windows like a dang gone prison. But this is what killed me about all this. And it still bothers me. Think about this. I really want you to think about this. You put a mask on, you go outside, okay? So when you go outside, anything in the air that's blowing around sticks to the mask. You're fiddling with the mask because you could be taking it off when you get ready to eat. Now, you're allowed to take it off in the restaurant as long as you were sitting down and you were eating. Anything after that, you have to put the mask back on. I can't even do this without laughing. I mean, seriously, this is how... If you really put thought into this, you walk up to the restaurant, you open the door, you walk in, they seat you. Your drinks come, so people were sipping on their drinks so slow that they had to put their mask on. But I didn't see a waitress or a waiter or anybody else telling people to put their mask back on. Because I think at this point, people were getting a little sick of it. But the amazing part about this is, how many people went and washed their hands when they walked in, touched the door, touched the table, touched silverware, touched the napkins? Now, my question is this. If I have the COVID and I take my mask off and I'm breathing and sneezing and all that stuff, and it all goes airborne, and you have your mask off, what difference does it make? Really, people, what difference does it really make? Did it make any difference? Look how many people got sick. Look how many people had lung problems, breathing problems, and all this stuff. But then there was proof that people were dying, but it wasn't due to COVID. But the restriction of breathing had problems. They had problems with it. Now, I'm not saying COVID didn't kill people. I imagine it did. Because there was people getting these booster shots, and look what happened. They were getting blood clots and dying. Now we go into these port closings, we go into all this, and exactly why I told you guys don't panic. Fear is not of God. Fear is the enemy putting fear into you. Sam's Club, I watched a video, somebody videoed inside of Sam's what was going on. People, one guy had a bungee strap hooked to 2 carts behind him, and he was pulling the carts behind him full. With a cart in front of him, he was pushing full. Are you joking? First of all, you can't leave a port shut down that long. Unless it's COVID. And then you can just leave it floating on a barge in the middle of the water, and the stuff's falling into the water, and then they're pulling these barges out of the water. Some people say there's still some actually in the ocean. Now I imagine if they are, unless they're seal-proof, waterproof, I mean, then even if you were able to open them in underwater, as soon as you open the door, stuff would be ruined. The only other way, like I said, if it's waterproof and there's no way possible to get water in, but you are talking about metal, that eventually them hinges and stuff's going to rust. I mean, good example, look at the Titanic. Look at that eyesore. But the problem is, not even God can sink this ship. Well, if you ask me, you just put God to a test. How'd that work out for you? Pride. You're going to be the fastest and the quickest, the most biggest. Pride. Got you nowhere but to the bottom of the ocean. We're coming up, people, on an election. And honestly, I've never in my life sat back and listened to such craziness. Because either way, I'm leery on both sides anymore. Because you really just don't know. You know, so many people are prophesying things and dates and all this stuff, but then their things seem to change, because it's amazing how you hear some people say, well, Donald Trump's definitely going to be the president. You know, the Eagles flew above him and all this stuff, and then now turn around, and I listened to the same person that was saying all this stuff, then said, if he remains faithful under God, basically, I'm just using my own words. There is no if nothing. If God spoke that to you, and the Lord Jesus Christ spoke that to you, then it's true. There is no buts, when, and then they're going to retract it. God tarries maybe because of our prayers, maybe because whatever reason God tarries on something, that's God's business. But if they tell you something's going to happen, you show me anywhere in the Bible where God says, well, yeah, but there's no buts about it. I'm very cautious what I hear and how I say it and say when it's going to happen. I made the mistake about one time mentioning a year of something, and it didn't happen in that year. And look what happens. People want to come at you and say da. You're going to pick one thing out of all the things that I've spoke about, and all the things I've written that I have not even yet read to you guys yet. And then when I said, it's going to happen, turned out to be it was her husband that did exactly what I said was going to happen. And then when I mentioned it, not a word, not a peep, not a cricket. But yet, I'm a devil. Yeah, I was. It's amazing. You'd think we would learn. That's the whole reason of a history book. To document it, learn from it. But we're not. We're not learning from it. At all. It's nonsense. All this. We are living in such a dark, hateful time. If you can't see the rise of the Antichrist coming, you're in big trouble. If you're sitting there looking for the Antichrist where he's at, you're in trouble. Because I'm looking for the return of Jesus. I'm looking to where he's at. I look daily to where he's at. I want to be with him daily in my communications. I want to live like he lived. Even if you have to do it alone. You know, how many people in marriages lose sight of things? Look what Lucifer's doing. Lucifer is putting so much doubt in ideas in people's heads that they don't even realize that he's behind it. Because when you start going into accusing because you see something, and if you're getting all pissy about it, then you too believe it. You don't even realize it. You say one word out of your mouth that says something, but then when your actions show totally different. How are you then claiming to be a godly person? Because you too are falsely accusing someone like everybody else is. Before you know it, or you're mad about every little thing instead of looking at the positives what somebody does in your life. Then you wonder why marriages are breaking up. The distance. He starts putting distance in your life. As soon as he gets a little bit of space between there, eventually you keep knocking out that tree and it's going to fall. You know, so many people complain about so much stuff, but then when it's flipped onto their side, they forget about all the stuff that they complained about and was upset about, stuff that you've done, because you had no choice. It's work-related. But it's amazing. See, I'm one of the people, if I'm doing something and I know there's something else in that area where I'm at, I'm going to continue to do, like last night. I was finishing up my work stuff, which is towels and stuff like that. So I'm finishing up all this kind of stuff. But I was down there, I still had a couple shelves that I was putting stuff on the shelves down there in the I don't even know what I originally called it, but basically down to where all the toys are. And I was standing there for a minute, and I'm like, is she talking to me? And then I realized she was on the phone. So I just kept doing what I was doing because I didn't want to disturb her. I didn't know if she was talking to somebody from work or if she was talking to one of her daughters. And, you know, but you can simply say, well, couldn't you get upset about that? Well, no, because I prayed and prayed and prayed that she would have a reconnection with her daughters and her granddaughter. God answered. So why should I be upset with something I answered? Does it take away from our time? Yes, but it's no different than the people that claim to be godly that around us that constantly call and stuff, and then uses the same thing, the same line over and over. Oh, I forgot. I can't. That's one thing I cannot stand. Forgetting is one thing, but when you're told over and over and over to stop doing something, it's people. Come on, there's no way you're going to forget that many times. But last night I guess was probably the first time in a long time that we actually sat and we liked this TV show that came on last year. It has Rob Lowe in it, called The Floor. It's pretty fun. I mean, because you can play along with it, and Darlene and I pretty much play along with it. It could be movies, food, and stuff like that. You got to either guess the movie or the pictures, or you got to fill in the blanks with words. And last night was Taylor Swift songs that they had to do it. And I tell you right now, I couldn't fill in a blank on one of them. I mean, I had an idea on a couple of them. I would have been right. But you got 45 seconds, and if you can't identify the picture or say what it is or anything like that, you can say pass, but you lose 3 seconds before the next picture comes on. And basically, whoever's got the most squares lit up at the end of the night, the end of the show, basically, you get $20,000. But you're playing for, I think it's $200,000 or something like that. You're playing to be the last one there, but you can win all this money along the way. If two people are tied, two people's got 4 squares, then they split the 20 grand. Now, I don't know what happens if 3 people's got it. Do they split in 3 ways? I don't think it's ever happened yet on the floor. But it was the fact it was nice just to sit there. We ate some popcorn and just kind of cuddled and just sat there. And then I got up and used the restroom. And at that point, I was like, it's after 9. I got to get some sleep. But we have 2 different schedules. And if you allow Lucifer to go into these areas, jealousy, whatever you want, pride, all these things can start adding into the pot of stew that is already rotten, because the broth wasn't good from the beginning. The foundation's sinking. You're going to crumble and fall. Look at Babylon. Just saying. We're too busy thinking we know what's going to happen, like this port. I kind of figured it was going to go a little bit longer. I was actually shocked to read this morning that if 3 days they put an end to it. I mean, I truly am. I am truly shocked that it ended this soon. All for them, because their big complaint was the economy. And that's where I was going with this in the beginning. Because of the economy. Oh my God! We're all going through that. You're going to raise minimum wage in the state of Ohio 25 cents, but these people got 65%. I mean, whatever that is broke down into these poor. I can imagine it seems like it's probably going to be a pretty good chunk of money added to their paychecks. Okay. Well, what about the rest of us? We're all suffering through this mess. And what did I say? Towards the end of this nonsense, you're going to start seeing them lower the gas prices, because that's what they want you to look at right now. Look at us, we're lowering the gas prices. Okay, well, here's your treat, little doggies. Go vote, because we lowered the gas prices, and soon as I win this election, I'm going to be the first woman president, and guess what I'm going to do? I'm going to raise all your gas prices right back up, and your food costs and everything else, because I don't care. If you really think Kamala cares about this country, you are sadly mistaken. But what we don't need is an egotistic president that's going to come in and do revenge. But I can say Trump did do what he said he was going to do. I'm just worried if he's going to go in there and spend all this time trying to make them pay for what they did and put them through these fake trials and everything else, or waste all this time on the border. I mean, you got a lot of people over here. It's a mess. But I don't know. You decide. Me? I don't know. I don't know if I'm going to vote or not. But let me finish with this. Bringing people over to stack the ballot and telling them who to vote for. First of all, you're not a legal citizen, so how are you voting? How does anything happen? Because that's like saying the world, our government does everything right. It does it by God's ways. Then it comes down to what Jesus said. Do as he says, not as he does. It's kind of a double-edged sword sometimes. But Jesus isn't wrong. We have to do this. So, I don't understand how people can vote for something. Look at what they've done in the last 3.5 years, people. Show me how the next 4 years is going to be any different than what we're living. Now, some of the stuff that I was hearing, I'm like, did that actually really happen? They're like, yeah, what was you living under, a rock? No, I'm living under God's wings, and I'm living under Jesus Christ's authority. None of this matters to me. I'm going to get a shirt that says this. This government doesn't matter to me. I can see why people hate the government. We pay all these taxes, and they live tax-free because they have a political job. They work in the Senate, they work in the House, they're the president, and blah, blah, blah. But yet, our properties went up, property taxes went up, this is going up, rent's going up, all these things are going up, and they're continuing to go up. It's continued to rise. Do you really think this is going to end, people? I mean, seriously, do you really think this is going to end? You want to start preparing, then you need to start preparing for that kind of stuff. Because this economy is going to get so high because all this stimulus and all this crap that they put out here, it's got to be paid somewhere, and we're starting to feel it. People's like, well, I got all this money in the bank. Well, big deal. Paper money it's worthless. If nobody's going to accept cash, where are you going to spend it? I mean, it blows my mind. The thoughts people go through. Well, I got to have this case of rainy day. Okay. But if you can't spend it, that rainy day is just going to keep raining on you. Useless. They're doing it more and more. I had a person get mad at me the other day at a store because I wouldn't round up. You're not going to round up? No. Why? I don't want to. This is how much it costs. This is what I'm paying. If I come and quoted a job at your house and it was $450.65 and I asked you to take it up to $500, what would you tell me? Why would I do that? Well, why would I round up? This ain't going to you. It's not going to me. It's going to the company. It's going to the people that own this company. so they can live a heck of a better life. If I round up at every store I go to today, I wonder how much money I'm going to end up spending on rounding up. Or they got this stuff, donate money to this organization and this and this and this. I will not. If I want to donate to that company, I'll do it myself. I know how to pick it up and find out their websites and go through there, or drop off a check to them or something like that. I know how to do all that. These days, you got to be very cautious because most of these people don't even do what they say they're going to do. There's been so many things opened up about these charities that it's really sick. They should be ashamed of themselves. Well, I'm having trouble with this cruise control. But, so I don't know. But it's good to see that the ports are open. It's good to see people are back to work. I mean, it's not like you can just send anybody into a port from a temp service, say, here you go, you're going to the port today to operate a machine. Okay. You know what gets me? You got to have a TWIC card to go into these ports to be able. Otherwise, you got to have an escort because of all this terrorist garbage and all this stuff. Just because I show you a card, what does that mean? I could have bought that card off somebody. It could be a fake. They don't even check it. I watched a guy that was standing because I had to go pay my fee. It was a $45 fee for me to get an escort back through the port. And I'm standing there, and the guy turned around and smiled at me when he walked by me. He goes, look at the number I wrote down for my TWIC card. I said, okay. And he was waiting outside when I came out. He wrote down the same number that was above him. And I happened to look at that number, and they wrote down the same number that was above them. And I'm like, you're just using somebody else's number off their card. And not one person caught it. Makes no sense. Because they didn't want to pay the $45. But the problem is, them dang on ports are so big. Some of them are really big. You need an escort. But what gets me is the one that I paid to get in there, and they're supposed to take you in and take you out. This place didn't. They took me in. Guy dropped me off. I had no idea what building I was supposed to go to. There was 4 freaking buildings back there. And I'm like, what the hell is going on here? Then when I finally got loaded, and the guy says, okay, you're done. I said, well, where do I wait for the escort to take me back out? He goes, you don't. You just go out this way and keep going around, basically a half a moon, like a left and a left and a left and a left. And then when you get to the final end, where you have to either make a left or right, you can just go right and follow that straight to the checkout. Well, I never checked out. You know, I'm sitting here going through all this nonsense. And the people at the guard check thing up there, they were so pissed because I wasn't doing it right. I don't freaking know. Don't get mad at me. I think all this is nonsense. You left me alone back here. If I was a terrorist, what do you think I could have done with all that much time? Right. Makes no sense. None of this makes any sense. When you really start thinking about stuff and putting stuff into a picture, when it's fully done, you go, oh, well, I didn't see that coming. Because you make an assumption off of what you think you see. We are not to do that. But it happens more and more. So, there's some general thoughts for you. You know, Wednesday when I get home, I think I'm going to if I get home at a decent time, I think I'm going to fire up that log splitter and start splitting some more wood. It's starting to get cold, people. That time of year. We'll see what happens. Keep praying. Keep examining yourself. Keep delivering it to God. Keep repenting. Hopefully you'll get to a day where you won't have to repent. And hopefully you'll be in that time when the names are being called that you are being risen. The same as Christ was risen off that cross. God bless you guys. Love you. Till the next one.